Four things I like about the NOBULL high top trainers is number one, if you're a fan of high top shoes like myself, then I think you'll be pretty happy with how these feel and perform. In my opinion, there's not a lot of great high top oriented trainers out there. So this kind of delivers what I like from a high top Converse point of view with the stability and kind of the extra ankle support, but with the added versatility. So I can wear these during functional fitness workouts or other forms of workouts that might be a little bit more dynamic in nature compared to more of my powerlifting style workouts, which I wear my Converse for. My second pro with this shoe is that all around it's pretty durable, right? So it has the super fabric all the way throughout the full construction. There's not additional seams. There's no lip up here on the toe. It has a broad lip, so you're not gonna have any lips during burpees or stuff like that, or toe dragging movements for that matter. So all around, this shoe shows some incredible signs of durability, and I haven't noticed any breakdown yet with this model. My third pro is the 4mm heel to toe drop. For most folks and most people who like to wear cross trainers, that usually is a sweet spot for kind of just being the best of all worlds when it comes to compound lifts and other various movements throughout the gym. So if you are a fan of that traditional 4mm heel to toe drop, the NOBULL high trainers are a good bet for you, or high top trainers for that matter. My fourth pro with this model is that I think it's a shoe you can wear on a day-to-day basis. Now, I am gonna get a couple folks that say they're not the most comfortable, and you're not wrong. They're not great for wearing for long periods of time. However, if I'm going into the office and let's say it's a little bit rainy outside, I love wearing these because they're easy to clean, but also they're just kind of like a best of all worlds shoe. So to wrap that up in a concise sentence, this shoe is pretty great to wear on a day-to-day basis and to the gym. So if you don't want to bring two pairs along with you to wherever you're going, this shoe could be a good bet. Three cons I have with the NOBULL high top trainer is number one, the price is a little bit high. This shoe comes out to $139. Now, it is a little bit more of a proprietary shoe, don't get me wrong, and if you really like the high top build, then I think that price could be justified, plus it's durable. However, if you're on the market for the most cost efficient models out there, then this is not gonna be your best bet. My second con with this shoe is the branding, man. I like the NOBULL branding, don't get me wrong, but I think this could be a little bit smaller and I wouldn't hate it. And I know we get that a lot on our NOBULL trainers videos, so if you see this NOBULL, a little bit smaller branding wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing for a lot of folks. My third con with this shoe is that it is a pain in the ass to get on and off if you have a very sweaty sock. You have to unlace it a lot, which really isn't the biggest issue, don't get me wrong, and that's pretty standard with high top shoes, but if you're looking for a shoe to slip on and off easily, this is not gonna be the best bet. So we mentioned this in the cons section, but the price for the Fog Heather Ivy high top NOBULL trainer comes out to about $139. Now, I do think that price can be justified if you're looking for a high top shoe that can be worn on a day-to-day basis and to the gym for functional fitness training. But if you are on the market for the most cost-efficient options out there, then this shoe is going to be a little bit expensive. All right, so now let's talk about the performance of the NOBULL high top trainer. I'm gonna break this section into three parts. We have a day-to-day section, we have more of like your more heavier compound lift section, and then more of your functional fitness style workout. So on a day-to-day basis, I'm a fan of the high top trainer. Now don't get me wrong, the midsole is not the most comfortable. I would not recommend wearing it for miles and miles when you're walking around, let's say a city or exploring somewhere on vacation. But if you're wearing it for shorter periods of time, so let's say going to the grocery store or doing something a little bit less task heavy with walking, then I think this shoe is a pretty good bet. It's not the most hard on the foot, but it's not the most soft, so it's got that kind of middle ground, and it's pretty great for wearing on, let's say, more rainy days because it's very easy to clean. So if you want a shoe on a day-to-day basis that you can wear that looks decently well, the high top trainer I think is a good bet. All right, so now let's talk about the performance of the shoe under more heavier compound movements. I am a fan of this model. The 4mm heel to toe drop is pretty standard to what I usually wear in cross trainers, and also the midsole is firm and the outsole is supportive, so it doesn't have a lot of compression under heavy load. Now I will say on maximal deadlift days, I still opt for Converse, and I think that might just be a force of habit. This shoe does fine for most weights, but when it comes to max loads, I still opt for Converse. However, this shoe does a really good job at supporting weight, and if you're worried about it compressing at all, this shoe does a really good job at preventing that, so I don't think you're gonna have too much of a worry when it comes to compression. Now, for functional fitness workouts, I am not the biggest fan of this model for more like, let's say, running focused stuff. So when runs are programmed into a functional fitness Metcon, for example, shoe's not the most comfortable. It is what it is. It's a high top model. I like to have a little bit more of ankle maneuverability when I'm doing things like running and jumping, But if you get the lacing right and maybe you even leave the top eyelet undone, I have noticed that it does a decent job at it. But all around, outside of, let's say, the more cardio-focused movements, this shoe does a great job at supporting functional fitness workouts. So with rope climbs, it resists abrasions very well. With various forms of, let's say, lighter box jump burpees, it does a good job. Granted, it is a little bit limiting if you lace it super tight for some jumping movements, in my opinion, but if you can accommodate for that, it's a pretty great shoe all around. I think you'll be pleasantly pleased with how this performs in functional fitness workouts. All right, so now let's talk about the sizing and fit of the high top NOBULL trainers. Now, this is a size 10 model. I have a size 10 foot that's pretty true to size. In all of our cross trainer and lifting shoe reviews, I wear 10s and then provide a little bit of a feedback on how they fit. Now, I will note that as mentioned in the con section, this shoe is not the easiest to get on. So as you see, I have it very unlaced and these BarBend socks are thick. So let's get this puppy on. Not too bad with the getting on process. I'm gonna go ahead and lace this all the way up just to show you guys where the shoelaces look and how kind of the tongue feels and fits when it comes to having like that full laced look and feel to them. Let's go ahead and lace them up. Normally I leave the top eyelet out and have it a little bit looser, but that's just personal preference. We have ample shoestring if you wanna lace them all the way up for even double knotting. So let's tie this puppy all the way up. We'll double knot it as well. So ample shoestring. No shoestring is hanging down to the bottom, which I'm a fan of. We have a little bit of tongue overlay down here, but I think if I just pull that tongue out and splay it a little bit more before putting it on, we're gonna have no issues there. So in terms of size and fit, I don't have too much room up here on the toe, but personally, it's just enough room in my opinion to make these more of a true to size fitting shoe. They're not the widest up here in the toe box, but I can splay pretty well and not feel too incredibly limited. I have noted that some people do like having a little bit of a wider toe box and they feel that NOBULL is a little bit limiting with their high tops, but that's I think for a small population of folks who have very wide feet to begin with. So if you're more of like that middle ground in terms of just foot width, I think the NOBULL high top trainers are gonna be just fine for you. In terms of length, I have about like a 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch space up here. So for me personally, that's like the perfect bread and butter for how I like my shoes to fit. I have a little bit of room up here to prevent toe jamming and a little bit of room to kind of just have a little bit of wiggle room if I have thicker socks like these. So all in all, if I had to give you a sizing recommendation, I would say go true to size for most folks. However, if you have a very wide foot and you're notorious for splaying the toes and feeling limited, then you might want to go a 1/2 size up. All right, so now let's break down the construction of the NOBULL high top trainers. We'll make our way from the toe to the heel as we do in all of our training and lifting shoe videos. Up here on the toe, we have an extended outsole layer that is pretty wide, and I'm a huge fan of that because when you have thinner layers, they're a little bit more prone to lipping, and since these are more of a functional fitness shoe, so you're gonna have more toe dragging when doing burpees and so forth, it's good to have this wider layer because it's gonna be a lot more durable. The material itself is pretty even throughout, so there's not gonna be a ton of lipping or breakdown up here on the toe. Making our way to the midfoot here, it's pretty simple. We have this super fabric going all the way throughout, and that's covering the toe as well. There's really only one area for a seam, and that's on the medial side right here. So in terms of just breakdown of seams for different abrasion movements like rope climbs and so forth, this shoe I think is a pretty great option for resisting any of that when it comes to durability. Making our way to the midfoot, we have 4 8 eyelets going up here, and we have the availability to lace them all the way up with a tongue that is decently wide and it has holes for breathability. The super fabric material, in my opinion, can get a little hot at times, so I love that NOBULL puts in the ventilated tongue to kind of help with the full ventilation process of the foot, especially when doing like heavier workouts and you're a little bit more sweaty or even more cardio-based workouts and you have very sweaty feet. Making our way to the heel itself, we have super fabric that goes all the way up. The material back here is not incredibly thick, and I personally love that. I don't want a super thick high top material because it's a little bit limiting. So even when these shoes are fully tight, even though it does restrict your flexion a little bit, they're not incredibly limiting because this material is a little bit more accommodating. It's not incredibly thick with material. Back here on the heel, we have an additional layer of material for durability, and then we have the super fabric throughout and the NOBULL branding on the lateral side. Making our way to the midsole. As mentioned before, this has a 4mm heel to toe drop, and then we have a pretty firm and even midsole throughout. Here on the medial and lateral sides, we have a little bit of a different texture just for rope climbs and really gripping that rope around the midfoot. Big pro there for folks who use their feet in rope climbs. And then making our way to the outsole, we have this kind of lug pattern as NOBULL describes it. And it's basically designed to provide grip on outdoor surfaces and indoor surfaces. So as you can see, these ridges here are great for digging into the outside texture, whether it be pavement, let's say gravel, and so forth. And then these are all pretty evenly spaced, so you can really grip the floor well, and there's not really any kind of gaps or deviations when trying to grip the floor during heavier compounds. So when it comes to the full-on construction of this model, that's pretty much it. I like that it's simple, and I like that it's durable, and I think that's what makes this shoe so great. The super fabric is super durable, the tongue is ventilated, which is awesome and lightweight, and the midsole itself is supportive and firm enough to accommodate multiple styles of workouts. That wraps up my review of the NOBULL high top trainers. If you're like me and you like a high top training shoe, or just a high top shoe in general, then I think these are gonna be able to scratch the itch you have pretty well. In the gym, they perform pretty solid. On a day-to-day basis, they're a decent shoe to wear, and all in all, I am a fan of the NOBULL high top trainers.